Could you explain how you did that one?
Sure. This is done the same way.
What I do is I try to divide it up. In other words, off market pattern is something that big. If you try to roll it around a piece and get your dimensions.
My first attempt was with power hammer. Power hammering a ring, and then using these two dies. And I have a outrigger on my Pullmax machine that's a little turntable, and I can set pitch and depth and length and so on. The problem I had was, without having very, very precise stretch, by the time I got 270 degrees around, it started to waffle on me. The more I went, the tighter that waffle got. So that became trash. And I cut out this ring and went to just having this plunger ride all the way around. Now this didn't ride on the edge in this case because I had a pivot point, and so it's a fixed distance, and I just kept bringing the table up and hand spinning this, and it was a progression of about 8-9 passes. Two-man, because it's a lot of metal to move, but it worked out well. And then in unscrewing it, I didn't have any waffling out here. To do it again, I wouldn't be afraid to have made this all in one piece, but having already thrown one piece away, I thought, well, I'd be conservative, and so I made this outer ring, ticked it together, and then this Pullmax die is this radius, and it's designed to not only do this side but also the vertical, which I didn't bring with me. It's all done and ready to weld up. So this is the stop, and then this came in like so.
Did you leave this form in when you did the outside curvature to keep the shape? Did you leave this in on the material?
No.
Okay.
No. Once this was achieved, I stopped using it.
Okay.
I did, however, put it back on my Pullmax and use the same center on the table to do this.
Okay.
So this is all consistent in radius. Right.
Would these have worked if you'd been very gradual?
Doesn't matter, because what I'm doing is I'm forcing excess metal. This will do some stretching, and particularly if you're straight line, you will see some effect when you get to the end if you don't go all the way off the edge. But if you're doing round, you're forcing that excess around to the point where it's all over here. So every little bit of mistake is accumulating and building and building and building until you've got this look.
What about doing it in pie pieces and then welding?
You could do that. Doing it in halves probably would work. But I did a Bugatti door and a Rolls Royce door both that had a reveal as like a C.
And that's all aluminum.
That's all aluminum. And even that C, even though it's going from end to end, is going to bow the center of the panel. You're trapping metal. So before you run that C with a beater or a Pullmax, you actually have to stretch that line, be it with power hammer or by hand, or even with a wooden buck, and you can use like a chasing
piece of
Right.
steel.
And then just use the Pullmax or the beater to give you the exact contour that you want. You have to put the stretch in first.
Right.
The only time you don't have to
To
stretch
avoid
is,
it later.
right. The only time you don't have to stretch it first is if you're going from one end of the panel to the other. And then it's all formed, and that excess metal is being gathered by the panel drawing in.
Right.
And it's not as tall or long or whatever. So it's all about pre-stretching, and that's the beauty of this system. It will actually pre-stretch because you're holding the surrounding area, and it can't do anything but stretch in that contour. So then I had, as I don't know if you heard, I had to planish this area out here to get rid of my marks. Because I didn't have the ability to make a wide enough landing, I wasn't stretching out here as much. Truly, the stretch ideally that you want is not on this edge. The stretch is a gradual on the side. And that's the beauty of you know, these massive dies. You're stretching the diagonal, if you will. Whereas I'm getting some pull here, but mostly I'm thinning this.
You're talking about massive factory stuff.
Right. 100-ton presses are moving not just the high spot in relationship to the low spot. They're moving that section in between. So when it's done, the high and the low truly are undisturbed, and you can mic them, and they're the same thickness. It's the distance between that has changed.
And there's no heat involved at all, or
You add heat, and then you add another element of lack of control, if you will, unless it's done in a furnace where everything is uniform.
I don't know, some deal with that. I don't know.
What is this plastic material?
This is Delran, and it's designed to go in these holders. And this is a progression set of dies. This is to make an upper nose for an Aston Martin out of aluminum. And so, if you look at the front of the car, the mouth, the panel is crowned like this, but it also has a radius that comes around and into the grill. So putting that major crown in is no big deal with a wheel. It's then getting the proper uniform radius to come around and in. So this set that initial contour. This served as a stop. And then once I decided what the depth of the nose panel should be, I set it in a beater, set the line, hand formed it, and tucked it in here, and then came down and tightened it up. So now I have so this is how the nose sits, and this is the grill going back inside.
That's the final.
Right.
Now, what are you going to do now that Brookville is making Aston Martin parts?
So I have enough Aston Martins to work on.
Still got to put them on the car, don't you?
Well, there is that.